Hi everyone, it's Lindy from Pink Whisper Designs. I've got some fun products to show you from Hero Arts, some layering stencils, some inks, some really pretty dies, but we're also going to be creating this interlocking gatefold card. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the Hero Arts color layering stencil. This is the Tulip Bouquet, and there are other products available with this stencil that coordinate with this stencil. I will talk about those a little bit later on. You've got 4 stencils in this set, and the back of the packaging shows you exactly what order that you will be doing your coloring. And there are little registration marks in all 4 corners that you can use to line this up as well. Now these are labeled A, B, C, and D, and I'm hoping that if I tilt this towards the light, you can see that a little bit better. So we're going to start off with stencil A. I'm going to grab my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. I've placed some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock down there, and I'm going to line up my stencil. I'm just using about a 1/4 inch below the stencil and a 1/4 inch on either side of the stencil to start my stenciling. And what we're going to do is that first layer of the leaves. For ink, I'm using the Hero Hues Core inks, and I've got 3 of them here. And these are Green Apple, Fresh Lawn, and Pine. And these are going to blend beautifully, so we're going to get a nice variation of color. Now I'm going to start off with that lightest green, and I'm going to blend that all over. And I'm using a small Hero Arts blending brush to do that blending. You can see it's a quite large area, so we're just going to fill that in completely. And I don't want the color to be perfectly even. I'm just kind of blending it and having lighter and darker areas. And then I'm going to grab that mid Fresh Lawn color and just go around those edges a little bit. You certainly don't need to do this, but I just wanted to add a little bit more dimension to my stenciling. So now we can go ahead and remove this, and let's do stencil B. And again, that's labeled down in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to line it up the same way, 1/4 inch. I'll slide it a 1/4 inch below that cardstock, and I'll have a 1/4 inch on each side. And then you do want to look through the stencil as well, and you can certainly just do it that way if it's easier for you. Just look through that stencil and make sure you have it lined up perfectly. So now I've got the pine, and I'm going to blend that. And again, I'm just covering completely that stencil area. And now we can remove that stencil, and you can see we're already building up these beautiful layers of color. Now for the flowers themselves, I'm going to be using 3 different colors. Here's the flower stencil, so let's go ahead and place that down. So that would be stencil C. And again, I'm using the bottom to line that up nice and straight. And I've got Dandelion, Butterbar, and Papaya. I'm going to start off with that Dandelion. And these small blending brushes are perfect for these little projects. You can really get down in there and get some nice color and some nice blending. There are several different sizes of these brushes. There's a small, medium, and large. I will list that down below for you so you can take a look at the brush. And then I decided while that stencil was down to add a little bit of that butter bar to the bottom of these flowers. Again, you don't need to do this. The layering of the stencils will certainly give you plenty of shadowing and dimension. But I thought it would be nice just to add a little bit of that butter bar to this layer of the stenciling. And then we'll do that last one, which is stencil D. So let's place that down. And then we're going to use that last color, the papaya, to do the shadowing for the rest of these flowers. And I just think this is so easy and quick to do. If you have a lot of Easter cards to make or spring cards, you could do a whole bunch of these in an afternoon and just have them ready to put on your cards. Now I will mention to you that off camera I did a second stenciling of this same colors. And I'll show you what I did with that a little bit later on. So let's finish up with this coloring. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that dandelion and just do a little bit more blending. So I'm cleaning off that blending brush and I'm going to just take that really pretty yellow color and just do a little bit more blending, just to lighten up the tops of the flowers just a little bit more. So let's take that stencil off and you can see what this looks like, and this is just so absolutely beautiful, and again, so easy to do. Now I did decide to add a little bit of spattering, so I'm going to take the dandelion and the papaya and I'm going to spritz those. I place those directly onto my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. I've spritzed those with a little bit of water from my distress sprayer, and I'm going to pick up those colors and just spatter those all over this panel. And that is just going to bring everything together a little bit more. And I'm using a small 0 paintbrush to do that, just so I get little tiny spatters. So let's set that aside to dry. Now to create the card base, I've got some Hues premium cardstock. This is the lavender. Now I will tell you at this point, I do end up changing this to the kiwi green, but to show you how I created the base, I've got a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm scoring it at 2 3/4 on one side, then I'm turning it around and scoring it at 2 3/4 on the other side. So again, this will be a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. So it will be your standard A2 size card. And next, let's create the layers for our card. For the inside of the card, I'm going to cut a panel that's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. That'll sit right inside the card. And then I've got a second panel that's that same size, except we're going to cut this one in half. And that's at 2 5/16. So just halfway across this panel. I'm using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer to trim that down. Now that those panels are all set, let's go ahead and I'll just show you where these panels are going to line up. They're going to leave a little bit of a border all the way around the edges of the card. So let's go ahead and stencil these as well. I've got another really nice stencil from Hero Arts. This is the Stencil Square Stripes. And I'm going to go back to that dandelion color, and we're going to be using that color all over the background. So I'm using that small stencil brush again, and you do want to kind of hold on to this because those stripes kind of want to pop up a little bit. You could always spray this stencil with a little bit of pixie spray at first if you want to. That might hold it in place. I'm just moving my fingers along just to hold that down nicely. So I went ahead and completed that entire panel, and then we'll let that dry and we'll do the other 2 panels for the front of the card. And look how pretty that is. I love that stripe. You could turn it on an angle, you could do it in different colors, you could do an ombre effect. So I think it's a really nice basic stencil to have in your stash. Now we've got these other 2 pieces. Let's put them back together. We'll just line them up on this grid, and then we're going to go ahead and stencil these the exact same way. So again, I'll just place those magnets down and hold this in place. And then we'll go ahead and do the same exact thing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are some coordinating products that go with that Tulip stencil set. There's a bundle that includes the die and the stamp set. So you could stamp this and then use your stencils to color it in. And then there's just the stamp set alone. I will list and link all those products down below for you so you know exactly what those are. I'm marking these 2 panels, the right and the left panel, and I'm putting a little arrow for the top of each panel because I want to put them back the exact same way onto my card. That way my stripes will line up perfectly. You certainly don't have to do this, but I just thought it would be nice to have everything line up nicely. I'm going back to that papaya ink, and I'm going to just go around the edges. I'm sticking with that smaller brush because I don't want to come in too far. And where the center of those 2 panels are going to meet or butt up against each other when the card is closed, I don't want any of that ink there. So I'm just going around 3 sides of each of these panels. So once that's all set, we can set those aside. And then we're going to do the same thing for that panel on the inside of the card. So I went all the way around that panel as well. And I thought I would show you quickly how I clean my stencils. I've got a microfiber towel, and then I place my stencil on top and I spritz it with some water or a stamp cleaner. And then I place a clean, dry towel over the top. And you can see when I lift this stencil up, it's going to be nice and dry on the bottom. That bottom towel will absorb all of that liquid, and then I can just put everything away, and I don't have all that wet underneath the stencil and on my glass media mat. So it's really a quick and easy way to clean off your stencils. For the two sentiments that we need for the outside and inside of the card, I've got the Hero Arts Togetherness Flower Bouquet. And this is just beautiful. And the script on these sentiments is so gorgeous that I'm going to stamp on the inside of the card the happy birthday sentiment. And then on the outside of the card, we're going to stamp hello. And the script on these two is exactly the same, so it's going to look really pretty when we're done. I've lined this up in my Mini MISTI stamp positioner, and you can see that stamp is a little sticky because I haven't used it yet. So I'm just going to prep it a little bit by rubbing my fingers over the top of it, just taking away a little bit of that stickiness. And then I've got my Versafine Onyx black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this. I like to press kind of lightly just at first. If I need a second coating, I can always go back and stamp it again. Now here's the paper I really decided to use. This is the Kiwi. The same thing, Hero Hues Premium Cardstock. It is a 100-pound cardstock. But in the end, I wasn't sure about the lavender, but I think either one would be fine. But I decided to go with this Kiwi. So I created the card base exactly the same way we created the lavender one. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these panels down. And again, that's the right panel, and I've got that little arrow that faces up, so we know exactly where this goes. And I'm going to line it up right along the edge of that gatefold, so right up to that edge. And so we'll have a border of that kiwi green on the top, the right, and the bottom of that panel. And then here's the left panel, and we'll butt those two right up against each other, right at that opening. And using the glue gives me a little time to slide these around, make sure everything is lined up nicely. The next thing we need are some dies to create the little interlocking mechanism. I'm going to be using these really fun Diamond Infinity dies from Hero Arts. I'll take that largest one and then the next largest one. I'm going to line these up so that there's a nice even spacing all the way around. But first, I'm going to use that smaller one to die cut the tulips. I will tape this down with a little bit of Post-it tape, and I'm just lining this up, and then we'll run this through the die cutting machine. This will be for the inside focal point of our interlocking mechanism. I've got some scrap paper. I like to put that down when all my stamping and coloring is done. I can go ahead and make sure that stays nice and clean. And then we'll just remove that die. And that, again, is going to be our focal image in the little mechanism. So let's go back to those two dies. And then we're going to tape these two dies together. I'm not actually taping them to the cardstock. I'm just taping them together and making sure there's an even distance all the way around, because we are going to be creating 3 frames out of this. We're going to be gluing them together, so we want to make sure that they're exactly the same. So if we just tape the two dies together, we can run this through just like this 3 different times. At first I only thought I would need 2, so you'll see here that I die cut 2 of these frames, but then I thought I needed a little more stability on the front of the card, so I decided to die cut a 3rd one. So all we need is this pretty little frame. And then let's run that through a second time. And you can see, because the dies are taped together, we'll be sure they'll be exactly the same as this first one that we die cut. So let's go ahead and glue these two together. I'm going back to that same Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and we'll make sure we have glue all the way around, and then we can glue these two together. And at this point, again, this is where I decided I needed one more layer. So I did go ahead and die cut that third one, and then we'll glue those together. Now you could certainly stack up as many as you want, but I thought 3, this is a heavyweight cardstock, so I thought 3 was just about right. So you see that little focal image will fit right inside those diamond shapes. Going back to that papaya ink, I'm going to do a little bit of blending around the edges. That'll just bring your eye in towards the center a little bit more. So now we can glue down the tulips to the front of the gatefold. And I'm looking for that center point, which with the diamond is really easy. It's the 2 points at the top and the bottom. And I only need glue on the right-hand side of this diamond shape, just the right-hand side. So you can see I went halfway down the middle, off to the right, and then we're going to glue that down. Again, centering this on the front of the card. And you do want to make sure you don't have any excess glue on that left-hand side, or you won't be able to open up your card. So just double check that. And now for this piece, we're only going to glue the left-hand side. So again, it's really easy. From point to point, we're going to just go along the left-hand side of this diamond. And then this will fit right over our image, so we can line that up right over that image and glue this in place. And again, you want to double check, make sure you don't have any glue or you don't want it. Make sure that opens and closes freely. And now you can see we have that little interlocking piece. So this will slide right in there. It's just so cute and so much fun. And you could use any shapes for this. Circles, squares, hearts, whatever you like. So have some fun with this. I'm taking that little mat out of my mini MISTI stamp positioner, that little foam mat, because this card is quite thick and I want to do a little bit of stamping. I want to stamp the word hello on the front of the card. I'm using a little bit of Tombow Mono dotted adhesive just to hold that down for a second while I do my stamping. But again, there's so many beautiful sentiments on that stamp set, but I am going to grab the one that says hello. Now you could certainly have done this stamping before you put the card together. I just wasn't sure what I was going to do at this point, so I'm going to quickly and easily pop it in the mini MISTI and do some stamping. I'm just prepping that stamp just like we did before, and then I'm going back to that same Versafine Onyx black ink and we'll stamp this quickly. The next thing I'll add is some Hero Arts pearls. These are so pretty. You just squeeze it out. I like to squeeze it onto some scrap paper first, just to make sure I don't have any bubbles or anything, and get it started with a nice even flow. And then I go to my cardstock, and I'm just going to create some little pearls just around the left and the top right, and then I'll add 3 right around this sentiment. And these are just, again, so pretty, and just add a little bit of an elegant touch to the card. Now, here's where I had stenciled that second set of tulips, and I spattered it just like we did with the first one. And I'm going to cut out a few of those tulips for the inside of my card. First, let's take a look at the front of the card, and you can see those beautiful pearls, and then that interlocking mechanism. And that's where I grabbed those extra stenciled tulips and placed a few of those on the inside of the card. And then look at how cute this is. This is so much fun. And again, look through your stencils and see what you have that you could use for your interlocking mechanism. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.